You're tuned in to Strength Culture's Quantum Lifting Podcast, brought to you by the team from Melbourne Strength Culture, the home of Australian strength training. Here are your hosts, Charlie Athanasiou and Jamie Smith.
Welcome to episode number 53 of Season 2's Strength Culture's Quantum Lifting Podcast. And today we have a very special friend and guest from the west side of town. He's made his way. Did you come over the Westgate Bridge?
Don't ask me questions like that. No, I don't think so.
You didn't? How'd you get here?
Teleported.
The freeway. I don't know.
Freeway.
I don't
You
know
don't even know.
roads and names
Just
and
put the
stuff.
Google Maps on.
Yeah.
But Lyndon Purcell, introduce yourself, please, Lyndon. Who are you? Where are you from? Where do you
Charlie
work?
said, I'm Lyndon Purcell.
Lyndon Purcell, that is his name.
I work for JPS Health and Fitness. We are a personal training studio in Airport West. We deal with a range of clientele, bodybuilders, powerlifters, gen pop, recreational athletes, all kinds of stuff. It's good fun.
It's good fun. So back to navigating your way here. So you're one of those people that chucks on the GPS and has no idea where you're going. That's it.
I made probably 17 wrong turns. I was listening to a podcast and I was just enjoying myself.
Is that why
driving.
Is that why you were running late?
Yes, that is one reason I was running late.
I didn't ask, but that makes sense now.
I too like driving.
Your directions are pretty shit.
My directions are fucking trash.
You have no idea.
I am terrible. Absolutely terrible. I wouldn't even know how to get to the city. Dead set.
I'm gonna toot my own horn here. That's one thing I was gifted with: navigation.
Yeah.
I think in a past life I was a sailor. Or
You were a
something.
sailor.
Sailor, just navigate. No, honestly, it comes natural to me. There's other things that don't. There's definitely skills you have that do not come natural to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Navigating, natural.
We're a good team.
So,
We're a good team. Dead set. If I'm driving anywhere, we're 20 minutes late.
You got no idea.
I have no
Especially in
idea.
the city roads and remember when we went to Sydney that time? And the Sydney roads are all spastic.
Yeah, I got a speeding ticket.
Trash.
Yeah, Sydney's trash. At least Melbourne, the city's a grid. It's very
Some form of
very
grid.
easy to navigate. It was designed very intelligently.
What podcast were you listening to?
Sam Harris one I've listened to before.
Samuel.
Making sense.
Making sense.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of the
Rebrand.
the new intro. I like the rebrand,
Yeah.
but the intro music, it's a little bit sort of
I don't know if I've listened to it. Have listened to a couple of the new Making Sense episodes, but I don't know if I can remember the intro off the top. I do like that he rebranded it and separated the app, the meditation app, from the podcast and gave them two separate identities, which I kind of like. I thought that was a smart business move. Do you do the app?
I have the app, but I don't do it as consistently as what I'd like. I think it's I think it's fantastic. I think it's awesome that he offers the free version if you can get it free. If you just email him and say I'm having some financial issues.
I think especially the fact that it's a mental health app, and personally, like my own anecdotal experience, it has helped quite a lot with my just thought processes and stuff. I've spoken about quite a bit on the podcast before. We all sort of do it here.
We've got a big conglomerate
following.
of Sam Harris subscribers.
He's the only person on our Hall of Fame that is not up there for physical or fitness reasons. So we do have we hold him in high regards. We do want to get him on the podcast.
That is the goal.
They're our goals. We're manifesting
that day.
And we said we'll pay him if we have to.
We're manifesting.
Yeah.
We've decided we just got to put ideas out there.
Yeah.
The universe is listening. Get them out there.
It's
They'll
fickle,
come
but
back.
it's listening.
It's fickle.
It is listening.
Can someone
fickle
please
universe. A
give me
book
the
by
definition
Charles.
of fickle?
Fickle. It's a fickle industry. It's a fickle place.
I'm gonna go with fickle. It's like fragile. It's like
Yeah. That's not the universe, but that's all right. The universe is ever evolving and ever destructive
the universe
and
could be-
ever
it's a
whatever
bit-
the
it's a bit-
opposite of destruction is.
It's a bit fickle.
Creation.
Creative, ever creative.
It's a bit fickle. Like at some point, the sun is going to burn out, and none of this will be here.
Yeah, but the sun in relation to the entire size of the universe is such a small percentage that I don't think it would define as fickle. If the whole universe just
It's fickle.
blew up,
It's fickle for us.
all right, this is
It's fickle for us. But anyway, the reason we wanted to get you on was to delve into a topic that we've sort of we've had a fair few discussions. So just science and evidence-based practice as a whole, and we wanted to talk a little bit about just your experience with it. We know you come from studying masters, and you, as you said when we were talking previously, just before the podcast, that you're almost finishing that. So what was your masters in?
What was your undergrad in?
Undergrad in, yeah. And how'd you get to your masters, and how'd you decide what you wanted to do with your master's degree?
Yeah, so my bachelor's degree was in applied science, which applied science is exercise and sports science in regards to what I did. Then I moved into a master's of high performance sport, probably about 12 months after finishing.
Which universities were these at?
So I did my undergrad at RMIT University, and then I'm currently completing my master's at University of Canberra, which is...
And you nearly finished that?
Online?
Yeah, it's online. I had to go up for a couple of occasions just because I selected subjects that I wanted to. One of them was like biochemistry of exercise. I was like, it's going to mean a trip to Canberra, but if you're going to pay for a master's degree, you may as well get what you want out of it. So I've got a month to go. So by the time this is out in 14 years, as Jamie said, I'll hopefully have had a PhD and probably no kids by then.
Crazy.
It's going up, so it's only like 6 weeks. The story will be out there sooner than later. And you also, we know you want to go on to a second master's.
Potentially. Something I'm considering. We'll quieten that for the moment.
Quieten that down. And so something, because obviously coming from JPS, very
evidence-based.
Yes, evidence-based. We've had the 2 evidence-based conferences that we attended. The first one, and obviously had the front runners of evidence-based practitioners and scientists in the S&C industry. So we often have this. We've been just talking about the delusion of science. Can science be taken too far? Where's your opinion with that? Where do you lie with all that, especially in S&C and nutrition?
I don't think science as a concept can be taken too far. I think the application or the trust you put in science can certainly be taken too far. Science is really just a system of trying to learn and understand the world, but it's the human element of that definitely has flaws, and people will use it to justify certain behaviors, certain things. And I think all science, and obviously most science, is undertaken with an ethical component to it. Like there are things we shouldn't study. I'm not sure. I don't think less knowledge is ever the answer to...
What do you think are some of those topics that we shouldn't study?
So hot topics that I guess are sort of going to be things like IQ differences between different racial groups, or gender differences may cause issues. I certainly, philosophically, I subscribe to the idea that we are all equal or should be treated equal, and there are certain things that if someone has more of something, they probably has less of something else. But again, it's once we know these things, if there's differing IQ ranges between certain racial groups, people might use that to justify certain behaviors. Or
so if we have X group that is shown they have a lower IQ range, and they may, and then there might also be like other concerns like prejudice. If you're applying for a job, we're not going to take that person because they are of X ethnicity, and studies have shown that those people are less intelligent or whatever. So there can be 100%. Some ethical issues with that. What about in the S&C and nutrition field? Do you think there's anything that shouldn't be studied? Or do you think everything and anything? Because we were talking about the nuance of all this, and I was like, where does it fit? Like,
how much is too much? But I think it gets to the point where the human is taking the data and then trying to apply it. And if you don't know how to apply it, or if you don't really understand the data, that's when it gets a bit hairy, and people start to misinterpret it and misapply it. And then all of a sudden we get what we've got on social media currently, where we've got the 2 ends of the spectrum and everyone's sort of caught in the middle, and it's, she's got big tits, I'm going that way.
Because Jamie's of the very clear opinion that the nuance does matter, and that some people do need to, we need the Greg Knuckles and all those people to really break that stuff down for us, mortals. So I've completely lost my train of thought there. I've lost it.
I don't know what you were saying.
I don't know what I was saying either.
Well, how do you think it's... in your opinion, how would you see Obviously science has helped our understanding of a lot of things. Do you think that there's anything in particular that we should probably dive deeper down in the sport and science and
nuance? We were talking about nuance. That you believe that we need to study the nuance.
I do believe.
And that, because ultimately I do think that when it comes to training, you can really break it down quite simply. We need to do it for a long period of time. It needs to be consistent and it needs to be relatively hard. Obviously, intensities do need to fluctuate, but like, when we really dive deep into science, people get too caught up in the nuance. And if something hasn't been shown in this study, then we can't do it. When things can work, just because they haven't been studied doesn't mean they're not legitimate. We just haven't proved that they're legitimate.
Yeah. Was that a question?
It was more a statement. It was more me catching my thoughts from before and realised, because I completely lost it. I told you I'm getting stupider. Power made me stupider.
Charlie's in a proper Dunning-Kruger dip at the moment. Probably the biggest one I've seen him have in the past 3 years. He came in the other day. I'm almost a shattered man. For no apparent
I'm
reason.
telling this to the audience, but I feel dumb at the moment. I feel dumb. I've banned myself from Power. I'm not watching that shit anymore. I told Lyndon before. So we've diverged a little bit here, but...
Where are your special interests within the S&C, nutritional science?
Yeah.
What do you like to look into? What are you interested in at the moment? What are you excited about that's coming out? Is there anything?
Yeah, I certainly have a lot of interests. I think it's... My interests now are formed on what I was interested on in the past, obviously. So when I first started learning, it really was about, it's those training mentalities that Charles said, or the key components to good progressive training. And then from the nutritional standpoint, it's calories and macros. If you're getting your calories and macros right, you're losing weight, you're becoming healthier, blah, blah, blah. The things that interest me a little more now are the nuances that you said, or which can be important. Nuances important for like pathological populations or athletes trying to get the most out of
someone trying to get from, that little 0.1% better. That's when it really matters. But for most of the general population, the meat and potatoes of what we understand with training and nutrition is going to work and they're going to see long-term progress and results.
Yeah, for sure. And that obviously depends though on what portion of the general population that we're talking about. Like if I say just for the general population, if they just track their calories and macros, that's going to be sweet. And it's like, well, not if they're someone with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, their blood markers are going to shit. So
would you often, with someone like that, would that be a referral out? Would you classify that a little bit out of your scope, or would you...
It's going to depend on the specific context of the situation. Typically, if I feel like I can help someone and I'm not going to, first rule of healthcare, do no harm sort of thing. If I feel confident in not harming them, I can help them and then can potentially recommend them on to someone else who can further their progression. That's what I'll go with. But coming back to the interests, I guess the things that do interest me now are more the tie-in of how health impacts what we do. Can we get someone to squat 350 kilos, but can we also make them as healthy as possible? We were speaking about Luke Tulloch before. Luke and I have spoken before. I think our interests overlap to quite
Somewhat
a
similar.
large degree. Yeah.
We will actually look at having him on the podcast.
Next time he's in Melbourne.
Next time he's in Melbourne.
I know he's doing a lot of travel next year though. We've tried to line up a couple of dates already, but
we'll try and snag him. But he's a very interesting man. He's very interesting. And
I was actually on that topic of because I'm going to you probably wouldn't know his name, but his name's Zach Couples. He's a S&C coach. He was an S&C coach. Now he's a physical therapist over in America. But I'm doing his course when I go over there. His weekend course, seminar weekend. I don't know. Is it a course?
Is that the Human Matrix?
Human Matrix, yeah. But I got the pre-reading off him, and the pre-reading has a depiction, a diagram of two arrows that are moving forward, and then at the end they split off, and one's health and one's performance. Yep. And for the most part, health and performance, they sort of mirror each other, but eventually when you want to either chase a 350 kilo squat, or if you are somebody who is maybe gone too far down the performance route, maybe like a bodybuilder who's too lean, fuck their hormones, their endocrine system is jacked up or whatever, then their performance has now made their health suffer. And we do see this divergence at the top end. Do you think that, or obviously it has to be there in some point, but do you think that what we are currently doing within the industry, that we maybe divert that too soon, or do you think that we could get more out of that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's just... I think a lot of people do really good jobs in generating improved health metrics in the people they work with. Like, if you get someone a bit stronger, get them to an appropriate BMI, get them eating some proteins and vegetables, like people's health will improve. I guess the issue that I have with certain aspects of the industry is sort of the things like, it doesn't matter what you eat if you stay within your calories and macros. And it's like, well, not quite. Like, I'm always a big subscriber to the idea that if there's a difference, there's a difference. Yes, you might not be able to tell it on a day-to-day basis. You might not be able to it might not be picked up in any of the studies we're doing currently, but if there is some kind of difference in the variables, there's going to be some kind of difference in the outcomes.
100%. That's something I'm actually sort of going through at the moment on the calories I'm on. I've actually experienced what Mike Israel spoke about, the hedonic staircase. I'm at literally the repulsed end of the food spectrum, where I'm just like...
Maybe that's why you're getting dumber. Like the GI tract food is depressing on your brain. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Inflammation. It's triggered me. Inflammation in the brain. But I'm actually repulsed by food. Where, I've obviously get to the end of the night and I'm drinking, a litre of pineapple juice, donuts, cookies, just to get my calories in. Because there's only so much, vegetables and sweet potato you can eat because they're so energy deficient. They're so low in calories. But I feel like arse. And I'm like, where's this
where's the middle ground?
So I'm going to speak to Joey about potentially doing a cut after the comp, because maybe that would be a good thing, just to have a little cut, resensitize myself to I don't know. This is not my forte, so I will speak to him. Yeah. But I've been experiencing that myself, and so I don't feel there is this. We were talking about this the other day, the happy medium point between performance and health. Do they exist? Well, I don't know if they do.
I think in this, we can examine your situation a little more, potentially. And as a preface, Joey certainly knows what he's doing, and I certainly wouldn't want to... I
haven't even spoken to Joey about this. So, Joey, he's probably not even watching.
There, Charles. That's
probably not even watching. It's only really been the last week, so...
But it's like, when we're talking about this divergence between performance and health, if you're saying you're feeling like arse, how is that actually helping your performance?
I've been performing. That's the difference.
Well, maybe it's that you're performing. That's why you're feeling like arse.
Well, there's been some other, the Dunning-Kruger effect. There's been some personal stuff going on as well that has, it's multi. You can't look at it in that one, because I've been on high calories for quite some time as well. And I've been fine up until this point. So maybe it's just a week, and maybe I need to look at it more on the macro scale rather than the
zoom out a bit.
Which is something we often talk about.
Zoom out a little bit,
because 1 week doesn't define it, and maybe next week I'll be fine. But
maybe when you pull 300 and squat 250
next week. If you had to choose any study, Christmas presents of study from Santa Claus, what would it be? Have you thought about this?
Endless cash.
I feel like knowing you have.
No, so
you haven't?
I think if you actually knew me, Charles, and I'm a bit shattered by that, you are.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at these kind of things. Yeah. From trying to understand my own mind and the way I am, I'm not very good at the hypothetical situations where it's like, if you had everything, my brain does seem to be quite oriented towards knowing the limitations of the world and reality. So I try not to consider, the hypotheticals too much. Hypotheticals are useful because you can map out potential future alternatives and options. But the idea that, everything you wanted, design anything like that, I couldn't even know, because to have unlimited resources, you'd need unlimited knowledge to utilize them effectively. So that's my boring answer to that question. I'm sorry.
I have not thought about it. I thought you would have been the type of person that would have wanted, with your understanding of physiology and your interest in physiology.
Sure. I'll say something that interests me. I would like to see more studies on how health does improve this is my bias, and maybe I shouldn't say, I'd like to see the area studied, not studies to prove it. If you get your blood pressure down, your fasting blood glucose down, all these kind of general health metrics, will that improve your adaptability to training?
This is very Luke Lehman-esque.
Yeah, it is.
The old, what's it called? He's got the two ends, and you got to pull back to then go.
Least mode and beast mode.
Least mode and beast mode.
And I want to get a little bit further definitions on those. Least mode, beast mode. Elaborate.
So I know you've done one of the courses, but my understanding of the least mode is that you have to go through it would almost be like a pre-screening, but it's like a pre-training before you actually get into the physical like outcome performance metrics. So you'll go through a period where you're increasing your general cardiovascular health, some of those markers you discussed, blood pressure, like insulin sensitivity, maybe like increasing cardiovascular fitness to a degree, maybe going through like more circuit density based training for like a 4 to 6 week period before you even get into, all right, now we're hitting 3x5, now we're actually pushing the fucking accelerator. So you got to like, that's my understanding. Least mode would be this sort of foundational GPP type work, and then beast mode is where you're actually getting your outcomes of strength, power, fitness, dropping body fat, whatever it is. Would that be around about correct?
Yeah. I think that's a good understanding. It's my general conception of it was just, let's spend some time getting your body right and letting it function more so how it wants to, and then we'll try and build on it from there. So I think it's a really good approach, and I think he's a good thinker. And
it's something that me and Jamie Buziotis, our other coach, have been discussing a little bit with Pat Davidson. Like, Jamie's big on the aerobic energy system. And I know Pat Davidson is too, on our body's ability to utilise and obviously metabolize oxygen, because we are aerobic. We survive off oxygen, and the potential that may have on, for strength sports, where the aerobic energy system is not the main driver of obviously we use heavily ATP, PC, but the effect that the aerobic energy system can have on improving you as a person and being able to adapt and recover, better.
I would agree that. I'm not up to date with the most current research, so you're probably be able to help me out a little bit more of this. But is currently that sort of theoretical? That, as you said, like our adaptive, if we had a finite amount of adaptive quality, is that what you're trying to like improve by getting these markers to with some sort of healthy range? Is that
yeah?
Is there much evidence to support it, or is it sort of just theories of, we take a bit of this, and put together to this?
Well, that effectively you just described evidence, though. Like that's what true. We do. We so depending on who you ask, like what I think there is a decent amount of evidence for that. Like running your heart rate at a fast 10% higher rate than what it could be is going to take away from at least energy, if nothing else.
Yep.
I definitely think there's evidence out there, but I guess my perception of the field and the methodologies employed are that there seems to be insufficient evidence for other people to view it as important as what I do. So I still think it should be studied more so. Yeah. I just don't think you can go wrong with getting help.
Yeah, definitely. It is a safe placement of energy and resources for
the
sure.
low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Because that's something I'm discussing at the moment. I was going for a walk the other day with Jamie and was out of breath.
Just airing it out. Yeah. No, not me. This was
with Jamal. We'll call him Jamal. It's easier. We've got Jamie Smith and Jamal, because we've got two Jamies here. Only 4 people who work here. 2 of them Jamies, 50%. 2 out of 4 for people that didn't understand. 50%.
You're not that dumb, Charles.
He's bringing it back. It's all coming together now.
He's on the climb.
But I was out of breath walking. Talking and walking, and Jamie's like, wow, you fucking need to do some. And so obviously, there's only so much time in the week and only so much resource, especially my goals being very heavily orientated towards powerlifting.
I'm sure you can find 30
I
minutes a day for a
do,
walk.
and I'm looking towards the prowler.
Oh, yeah?
No, you did it. You did 10. You used
I did it for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You should be trying to find the lowest
I walk already.
The lowest intensity that will drive the greatest game, which for you, I think, is just walking.
I walk already.
Mouth closed, walking, nose breathe, small hill, fast paced. Your binaural beats or whatever you listen to.
It's trying to find the small hill to walk on for a while. Because
just walk up and down the same
when
hill.
you go up a hill, there's a down on the other side.
Crazy.
So
profound.
Yeah.
Profound, Charles.
But along the beach is nice. along the beach.
In the sand, a bit more resistance underfoot.
Yeah, the sand's actually quite tough feet. You get the groundings.
Yeah,
that's it.
What would you say are some strategies to then improve some of these just general health outcomes that you think some people could be missing, particularly if they're driving that performance end of the spectrum? We'll say for powerlifting, let's give it a little bit of a boundary to it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. I think the notion that calories are your only tool for driving performance is just a misconception. Like got a comp coming up, hard training is coming up, got to get those calories in, pile them in. Like as you said, they're drinking the gallons of pineapple juice. Like, just I'm a big fan of the low hanging fruit, or just trying to address whatever bottleneck is popping up. Like, we would need to sit down and go, what do we think is impacting Charles at the moment and just hindering his performance more than anything else, or the most? Maybe it's just the gut mass from all the food you've been eating. So it's like, you have to shift towards liquid calories or something like that. Like, there's always something we can all do to improve. But in regards to just, I guess, the health metrics in the powerlifting, I think a bit more cardiovascular activity during the at least off seasons is a little better.
Those non-specific phases.
You can carry it through so easily. But this is just, there's so many like certain mindsets of how powerlifting and things are done, like dogmas for lack of a better word.
I was going to say, one of them is obviously I feel people. So I'll just use myself as an example again, but I'm quite light for my weight class. People like just putting weight on for the sake of putting weight on. Now I feel like we'd have very similar views in this, where muscle size is like muscle moves weight. So just putting on weight for the sake of putting on weight, I feel is a very common misconception within the powerlifting scene. And I still get asked a lot about it, about just eating and putting on size for the sake of putting on, not muscle, putting on weight. Is that something that comes up quite a bit for you? Do you get asked that question quite a lot? Because I get it quite a bit.
Yeah. Like I again agree completely. Like if you're gonna put on weight, you're much better off trying to put on muscle. If you're gonna get powerlifting, maybe weight does move weight, but it might be like a correlation factor of 0.3, whereas correlation factor of muscle and weightlift is probably like 0.8 or something like that. It's like, they both are correlated with moving more weight, but one of them is a hell of a lot closer.
For sure.
So getting powerlifters in good enough body composition shape is one of my primary concerns. Like, get the mind, get the body ready, then direct training towards your goal and
towards your outcome. I know with Crozier has just gone up about 12% in body weight, coming out of the 110s, and now he's going to the 125s. And just by nature of going up, I think he's 13 kilos up right now, he has felt a big dip of majority of just general quality of life. And obviously that's the end range, like the extreme, like this guy is already at the top. But even to somebody who weighs 75 kilos and go, all right, I'm going to go up to the 85s. And then, or 77, then goes up to the 85s, and then they put on 5, 6, 7 kilos within a short period of time. Like, that's a lot of stress for your body. It is going to be something that you probably further have to recover from, just by nature of having more weight on your system throughout your day-to-day being. So there probably are some definite key markers there that you could probably try and improve on.
I know Bryce is going through something similar. He's moving to the 120s, and one of his concerns was what was his quality of life going to be, because I know he's very big on like his hikes and stuff in the mountains and Canada and stuff, and because it can have a massive impact on just quality of life. Am I going to be able to walk my dog for an hour because I'm 10 kilos heavier than what I probably should be?
And replenish those calories that you've just lost.
Yeah.
I think you certainly can do those things. It's obvious like how quickly you gain the weight and how segmented you make it. Like I guess I have general ranges of whenever someone gains 5 to 10%, like I usually try and cap their weight gain for a while, and I just do like what I call a health block. Like if they've been gaining, like rather than call it a mini cut or something like that, which is very common, or if the body composition side of the industry, we just try and like, all right, for 4 weeks we're just going to work on nutrient density. Like I want you eating more vegetables, more nuts, more legumes, more fruit, things like that. We're going to try and improve your sleep. We might drop a day of training and get some volume reduced a little bit, kind of like my own sort of least mode block, like we're talking about
the muscle nerd approach.
And it just, I feel like that's a nice addition to, you just bring up some of those lifestyle factors, those health factors, get that pretty good, and they usually drop a bit of weight in the meantime. And you sort of see this nice, weight rising over time, and you work on some aerobic fitness there, then you try and maintain it.
Probably a bit more sustainable in the long run too, for sure.
Well, as Charles said at the start, it's like you've got to be able to do this thing for a long time. Like, it's not, we approach so many things in the fitness industry as like the sprint, but it's just like there's endless amounts of sprints that you've got to string together. It's like, let's be a little more clever about it.
Yep. I definitely feel that with a lot of people, that their adaptation comes in a quick burst, and then you go a couple of months where it slows down again, and then all of a sudden something flicks and you just go again. So I imagine that would be the same. What about the other side of the industry then, like the bodybuilding? Because I know you guys at JPS are obviously heavily involved with that as well, particularly natural bodybuilding. So we've discussed some of the bottlenecks that we may have as powerlifters. What about for that other body comp or extreme body composition? Do you see many hurdles popping up there from this sort of approach as well?
Yeah, so I think probably the first thing I'd like to address with the bodybuilding side of things is it tends to be looked at in a very negative light in regards to its impact on health, and this is part of the presentation I spoke about when I did a presentation on contest prep physiology, and I was speaking about how if you look at the actual health metrics associated with bodybuilding, not all of them go down. It's like, insulin sensitivity goes up, blood pressure goes down, it tends to drop below healthy, levels. A lot of your blood markers do actually improve, like quality of life or, the purpose to your life may also increase. It's a big hurdle to overcome.
Yeah,
so
sure.
We can't just go, oh, that's unhealthy just because of the endocrine effects. So that aside, everything has trade-offs, as we know, or hopefully should know, even though it's a very fickle world.
Fickle universe.
What is it, a gimme and a gotcha? I think that was I'd never heard that before, but when we came to your presentation
it's the catch-22.
The catch-22, yeah. But I never heard the term gimme gotcha. But yeah.
So I think two of my two biggest concerns usually with bodybuilders, or just from general observation, is fatigue management. Like, that's such a big one. They're usually very driven individuals, and you've got someone that's not willing to put their foot on the brake at all. It's just gas down the whole time. They're willing to undersleep. They're willing to get up at 4 a.m. to do their extra cardio. They're willing to do all these things except often rest a little bit more. It's like, maybe you do need to be willing to do that.
Probably going to be more productive to them, but it's that mindset of go. That's the only way I'm going to get better.
Yeah, and it's a hard lesson for them to learn, I think, and that's where just the objectivity that comes with a coach is really beneficial. And I think just sort of going with that as well is they tend to undereat on fat a lot. Like, fat, well, it's either, it's all fat or it's no fat. As we know, the industry can be so binary. You definitely need to eat a certain amount of fat. Like, get an egg yolk and some nuts in. Like, it's
not that hard.
It's not going to kill you.
It's not hard to hit 70 grams of fat, 80 grams of fat.
Yeah. Like,
no, it's not hard.
and now there's the carb sort of revolution again. Everyone's like, no, carbs are the shit.
Carbs.
They're okay. Like, they're the performance nutrient, whatever. But
the pendulum really swings.
Yeah.
I feel that it swings in nutrition more than anything else. And I think everyone has an opinion because we all eat for obvious reasons. But
so when we talk about powerlifting or bodybuilding, not everyone can have an opinion on that because not everyone's done that. It's like not everyone's played soccer, not everyone's played golf. But nutrition, everybody eats. Everybody does it 3, 4, 5 times a day. Everyone's heard from that person, this person. This is what
everyone's tried everything already themselves.
They try it for 2 weeks, obviously, which we know is probably not long enough to see any sort of results or have any legitimate evidence. But and that's why I actually find my opinion, not my opinion, but when I talk about nutrition in a very held back manner, I don't often, to our clients, yes, but when people ask me, I hold back quite a bit because I'm scared to almost touch it. Do you ever find yourself in that similar position where you're scared to touch the topic because it is it's a fickle topic. It's a fickle topic.
Yes, without a doubt. And you can often tell how much someone will misinterpret your answer based on the question they ask. So, yeah, you can just get that sense of what this person's looking for, what they already know, what they don't want to hear.
It's a loaded question. They come with loaded questions.
Yeah. I've got a couple of clients that are really good. They're just like, hey, I saw this on Women's Day magazine.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And I was like, the blood type diet, probably not that good.
I don't actually even know what the blood type diet is. Can you elaborate?
It's this diet that's done the rounds multiple times. Again,
they just rebox and repackage.
Yeah, there's a new breed of people that haven't been experienced to it, and then it's like, yep, let's re-release the book or something. So basically, it's just you should be eating foods based on your blood type. You know, the A, B, O.
There's 4 different types of blood types. I'm pretty sure.
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert.
I think it's A, B, and O, and they've all got negative.
Yeah,
so there's positive and negative.
I thought there was 4.
I think there's 3.
3?
Yeah. Yep.
3, 4. Anyway, continue.
Well, that's effectively it.
That's
it. You work out your blood type, then you eat foods based on that, and then just massive over extrapolations of what we could even consider might be true. Like this.
I think that just along this now, and it is a new one, as you said, with the blood type thing being it's repackaged, because all that sort of like low carb is not the first time it's run around. Yeah. It's not the first time keto's run around the block. Like, I think a new one that hasn't run around the block is gut health. And I know Tulloch talks a lot about this, that we really don't know what we don't know. Like we literally have, this is new. Yeah. Like, all right, we know there's some strains of bacteria, but there's fucking millions of them and we don't even know where to start. That is an interesting one, because I'm already getting, I put up my photo of what I would say is a very well-balanced macronutrient bread. I had 2 people slam me for the gluten, like slam me, like your gut is just getting destroyed. I was like, what?
Is it?
Like,
I feel like the gut.
I feel fine.
I feel like the gut has evolved to be a very robust system.
Yeah, I think my gut.
That's just my. We'll say it's a belief, because I don't know that for a fact, but I feel like for what it does and what it is made to do, that it would be robust.
My gut often fares worse when I get messages like that. That's the kind of stuff that makes me really feel sick.
Nauseous.
Like, thank you for your contribution. Move on.
Thanks for fucking my day, man.
I just
fuck this bread.
We often talk, like we often, even when we present at our seminars, absolutes. There's no place for them. We just cannot be sure. Like you can't be sure, is gluten bad for you? Is it like, maybe there's a couple of people that are intolerant and shit themselves after they have it, but does that mean all of us are? Probably not. Like too many absolutes, and people talking too many absolutes. It's either keto or high carb, no fat.
Yeah. So it
carnivore.
Brings us back.
Carnivore is the new one.
Yeah.
Just meat. It's like
it's keto on steroids, mate.
Like listening to Dr. Rhonda Patrick talk about it, and she's like, just seems so far fetched. Like, have some bloody veggies. Eat your meat, but have some veggies with it. Like,
it's a good 1/3 of a diet. Yeah, it's like had some veggies. Some
it's almost like
I think it was I can't remember who it was, but like someone asked like, how could you make the carnivore diet better? I said, eat vegetables.
I don't know if there's an identity thing to it. Like people want to associate with a certain type of dieting. I want to be I'm keto. And if someone attacks keto, it's like I'm vegan. Themselves. Yeah. Because anyway.
No, you're right. There's something we need to remember as practitioners, that people do. There is innate cult mentalities within all of us. Like we have these modules that run in our brains to look for members of a tribe and belonging. Like it gives our life purpose, but it also protection. Like these are people that if we do right by them, they'll do right by me. So these are all like base level human things that manifest into things like the 21st century fitness industry.
Yeah, very true.
But I think there was something I was going to say before. You mentioned absolutes, and this is one of the errors in the application of science, which is obviously where we start this conversation. The people are very binary, as we've discussed, and it's like, some studies come out showing that muscle can be grown in a range of, or in a broad rep range. So that all of a sudden it's like muscle, it doesn't matter. Like rep ranges don't matter. It's just mechanical tension. It's like, but there are the mechanical tension isn't often the bottleneck. It's like there are benefits to training in the 6 to 12 rep range. It's like people go from going, oh, I've got to train the 6 to 12 rep range to, oh, nothing matters. Boundaries don't matter. It's like, well, now you've just gone, one extreme to the other. It's like, maybe just expand those sort of boundaries a little bit, take that step back, as we discussed.
A more macro view of it all. And
not... The way I was saying to someone the other day is like, whenever someone's confronted with a new piece of information, like, what you're trying to achieve is just opening your eyes a little. Not just cracking your whole head open and be like, nothing matters now, and going full Alex Jones on it all. Like,
Alex Jones.
Just on that, being that the rep range, because I remember you brought this up in that seminar that we did come to, and it did like light bulb flick in my head, where you said, well, like we're discussing rep ranges between like 6 to 12, and like we think that's a big jump, but when you zoom out from like an energy system standpoint, like that is nothing. Like we are manipulating 8 seconds worth of work. Like we're not even, there really isn't any difference between a 6, an 8, a 10, a 12, as long as volume is progressing in some capacity over the training block. Like it doesn't really matter.
It just comes back to when you really break it down. Consistency and effort.
In the right direction. It's like you can be consistent and put in effort with your masturbation protocol, but
not productive to society.
Did you read Greg Knuckles' sort of, not rebuttal, but sort of like a
I haven't yet.
Open door, leave this door open ajar or whatever.
Hypertrophic reps.
No,
I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
I've heard it's quite good.
I needed a better analytical science brain to really pick it apart, but
I wanted to read it actually before you came, and Jamie's like, it's going to take you like an hour, so didn't get to it. But we were discussing, because we obviously, James Krieger has put forth the effective reps or hypertrophic reps, and it's taken off quite big, like quite large. There's big, we've been talking about it quite a bit, but obviously Greg Knuckles in this article has sort of broken it down why it's not that well backed yet, and maybe we shouldn't be running off with this idea so quickly. But to me, I was saying to Jamie, it does kind of make sense, the whole hypertrophic reps, just that you need to do something moderately hard, but
it should be challenging. You're trying to disrupt homeostasis.
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense. Well, if you're working between RPE 5 to 9 and actual RPE 5 to 9, that you're sort of in the ballpark of getting jacked and getting strong.
There's an Arnold quote with the last 4 to 3 reps of a set is what determines the champions from the. So maybe Arnold really is the king.
And we're swinging back around, and what all the bros were talking about. It's like maybe that bros were right, and we've just.
Well, they got jacked, so they're doing something right. That is evidence in itself. That is evidence.
It's the lowest form anecdote, but it's still evidence.
Yeah, I think I've seen people use worse evidence than anecdote. Like people will,
what is lower than anecdote?
People will go to some really low levels when they want to justify something, and this is something that we need to remember is if we're in broad agreement with certain things, like this is our confirmation bias is like a bit at play here. Like we're going to rationalize and help to solidify our justifications for certain things. And I think something that I'm really enjoying in my just role and just my place in the industry is really trying to extend the olive branch across the aisle or whatever it is, and really get some of these people talking about or trying to come to an agreement with certain things. Like there's the tribal mentality that we seem to adopt is just very counterproductive, I think.
And because we've here pretty much taken, like the other day I was talking with someone about the calories expended in a resistance training session. I remember you told me
it's like 180 average or something. And compared to cardio, could be anywhere between 500 and 1,000.
I won't say who the person was, but they were getting, and I'm like, don't get frustrated at me. I was like, I'm just repeating what this study said. Like, it's not my opinion. It's not my, like, that's what the study said. I'm like, don't, like, but people get like that. No, that can't be correct. It's like you're attacking their identity, and it's just facts. Just facts.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Facts
Who's
don't-
that?
Ben
Ben Shapiro.
Like,
Benny
they're
boy.
not my ideas. These guys ran this study and they showed this. I'm just repeating what they showed. But would you say that we're talking about confirmation bias, that the bias within people conducting research, as we said with loaded questions before, that almost researchers have a loaded research studies where they're looking for a certain answer to support their claims or theories or hypotheses?
Yeah, that is certainly an issue in the undertaking of science. As I said, I think science, just in the principles that it stands for, the assumptions that it's founded on, science doesn't have many issues. It's probably our best bet, and it's given us effectively everything good that we've got so far. There's some people going about things in a biased manner, but as I said, people thinking too absolutely, it's just like, oh, that's biased, therefore no thank you. It's like, well, what if it's 1% biased? The other evidence you have is 93% biased, so that gives you a better depiction of reality than what the other does.
It's just pointing us in a direction as well. Like, it's not, again, absolutes, it's just pointing us in the direction and going to help us be better coaches.
And that's why science does work quite well, is because you've got flawed, biased humans trying to disprove each other, trying to prove themselves right, and there is an amalgamation and eventually...
It's a net positive. It's a net positive, without a doubt it is. Yeah. Unless you're a...
flat earther.
Yeah, just completely making shit up, but it is a net positive. Science is good. Yay for science.
Flat earthers interest me purely because I want to understand what's going on in their brain. Because I'm all for the conspiracy theory, but that one just... You can't honestly tell me the Earth's flat. But they believe it.
Where's the evidence that it's not?
Well, that is correct. That is correct. But
I'm not a flat earther, but
we're
it's pretty easy to rebut.
Yeah, I know. But we're not talking in absolutes, because I can't confirm with my own eyes that the Earth's round because I haven't been up there and seen it myself. But people believe it, so like,
yeah,
the Earth is flat. How the fuck do you know?
There's a few of them. The Area 51, I know the raid was just this week. The 2 million boiled down to 140 something, I think.
What? I did not hear about that.
So have you seen there was a Netflix documentary with Bob Lazar from 2018,
I didn't watch it.
And then he went on Joe Rogan, so it blew up. And it blew up like maybe 6 months ago. And then the Facebook group started, we're going to raid Area 51. So that's where the spaceships are apparently held. And it happened this week or last week or something. And there was 2 million people clicked attending on the Facebook page and 140. Who was that kid that threw a house party like 10 years ago? Yeah, he had more people at his house party than that rocked up at Area 51 to storm Area 51. And they interviewed a lot of the guys in that rocked up, and they were the people you would expect. But there was this one guy, he's like, yeah, we're just like really open-minded people and just here to like check it out and see what's going on. He's wearing a fucking alien helmet. I was like, what the fuck is this? But they stormed it. Yeah. Well, apparently they stormed it. They rocked up with their caravans and spray cans and did something.
They ran through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced they stormed it. Like, just where's the proof? So
it's not.
But yeah, do you think there's extraterrestrial life out there? I know it's a deep question.
It's deep.
It's probably a Saturday night question, not a Thursday afternoon question, but
it's any time.
It would be surprising if there isn't.
Is that there isn't? Yeah.
Yeah, other forms of life. I do like the. Yeah.
I think the fact that we're here is enough to lead me to believe that there is something else, because why should we be here and not something else? That's just, and I'm just open. I'm just open to that idea, because it's the same as you can't prove the Earth's round, but you can't disprove there's nothing else out there.
Yeah.
So as much as you can say, oh, no, we don't, like, you can't disprove there's nothing else out there. And probably will never in our lifetime.
Well, we need to be careful here with how we use the words like fact, certainty, prove, disprove. So the correct application of science, in my opinion, it should be more associated with probabilistic thinking. Like, there's the idea of, I can't remember who the philosopher was, but there was a thought experiment just like about a China teacup. orbiting the Earth. It's just like, you can't prove to me that there isn't a China teacup orbiting the Earth. The correct question is,
how probable?
How probable is it? Like, what evidence do you have to suggest that would be a good line of reasoning to follow? So,
I would say, considering our understanding of the universe and how big it is, that it'd be very probable that there'd be almost more probable that there is life out there than not.
Yeah, so
that's just, when we live in this universe, it's 96 billion light years in diameter, and there's 100 million stars in our galaxy and another 100 million galaxies. Just on that alone,
a lot of shit
you have to be like, there's more probability. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not going to break, but that's why I lean towards that thought process.
it obviously depends on what kind of time scale that we're talking on as well. It's like, are we talking about there's life in the universe elsewhere right now, or has there been?
Like, and also
of our level of,
even for all the way time and space work and how they're warped, even if we were to, like that, because I this stuff blows my mind, and I'm not even going to try and explain it, but how time works and the distortion of time, like we won't even ever be able to know, because I can't even get into it. This is my
the
brain.
Dunning,
My brain.
Dunning,
My brain's
the
going
DK
to
dip back.
I watched this.
You're just waiting for the crew.
I watched this video. There was a cone of like time, and I can't even explain it. I'm gonna find it. And send it
Time
to you.
dilation is fascinating.
Yeah.
Time dilation is fascinating.
It's-
shit.
That's what I mean. We're very. Yeah,
I think
don't know.
blood vessel dilation's fascinating.
Yeah. The back to what you said there though, and because I just heard, I am a Joe Rogan fan myself, but Neil deGrasse Tyson was on there, and Joe was like hammering him about gravity, like hammering him, like what's the answer? Like, you can't tell me that blah blah blah. Like how, like, and Neil was like, oh well, we understand gravity enough to put a spaceship on the moon, and we understand it well enough to get something to Mars and potentially back. So like, yeah, we don't need to like work out exactly why it is or where it is or what it is. We understand it enough that our reasoning has been able to do all these sort of things. We can time dilate GPS tracking so that it's in time with where we are. But whether or not, it's not that we can't like disprove or prove gravity. It's like we understand it well enough that we can do these sort of things. So the answer shouldn't be how, what, where, why. Like, we're in the ballpark of it.
I think to simplify what I was trying to say before, I was just going in my brain went into a spiral, but the Andromeda Galaxy, our closest galaxy, it's the Milky Way, is 2 million light years away. So in order to send a message there, 2 million years, at the speed of light.
Light years, yeah.
If we send a message at the speed of light, 2 million years to get there. If it was received, 2 million years to get back. That's 4 million years.
Considering that we can only go the speed of light.
We are potentially long gone by then, human beings. So that was my point, is that and that's the closest galaxy. So unless something drastically changes in our ability to transport ourselves across the universe.
I'm back in Elon.
Michio Kaku, when I went and saw him speak, he reckons we're going to be able to digitize our consciousness and upload it and travel at the speed of light across the universe. And that will happen within our lifetime.
I think that's...
And now this is a guy that's is string theory, heavily involved in string theory, so I'm going to back him to know a little bit more about this than we do.
String theory has never been proven though.
I know. I think the string theories. I think from
it's
my understanding, a lot of what we've listening to that Sean Carroll podcast, a lot of what we understand about the quantum world is there's been no real breakthroughs in the last 30 years, and that maybe they're looking at this all wrong.
There's a really good Eric Weinstein podcast on that with Peter Thiel. Did you listen to that one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, and they talk about it in the same sense that like he's a Forbes 500 bloody Facebook investor worth however many billion, 3.5 billion or something. And he's the same. He's like, yeah, there really hasn't been much breakthrough. From a general like, oh, wow, we have just changed the way, like a big deviation in the way we think. It's just sort of confirmation of things that we thought were there and then we're finding them, which is, it's fascinating. Science as a whole. I love science. Science is sick. All aspects of it.
I started
blindly follow science.
That's my religion.
Science. I started reading Lawrence Krauss's book last night, The Greatest Story Ever Told So Far. I in my Dunning-Kruger moment, I'm like, I need to stimulate my brain. The brain is a muscle. I've got to train this thing because I'm getting stupid. And it was, just started provoking a lot of thoughts again about light. They were talking about light and how Isaac Newton was the first person to say there was a wave, and that when you put light through a prism and then it splits into the rainbow, the 7 colours, and then goes back into another prism, it goes back into a wave of white light. It's pretty interesting.
I think there are books like that are great. I think, like personally, my own sort of use of science and how I incorporate it into my life, though, is like one of the issues with as we learn things, we need to remember our intellectual humility and obviously like be humble. It's like there's for everything you learn, there's going to be a range of things now that you need to find out, obviously. And I feel like people get maybe a little too hung up on those big, expansive, like physics, universe, space kind of related books, and they're like, I'm so into science. And it's like, I think it's a good idea to read those books because, as you said, it stimulates your mind. It gets you thinking, like, how small we are. But it's like, if you really want to make science something that helps you interact with reality and improves your life, like, then maybe read sort of, a cognitive psychology book or a book to help with, the psychology of persuading people, so maybe you can be a little more successful at work, or like use all these things in tandem, sequential, logical manners, like we do with training. Don't go, I'm going to learn about science, and then you learn about the astrophysics of planet 57 light years away. Like,
that's me, culprit. I bought that book 2 years ago. It's just been sitting there, and I just picked it up.
It's
last
on
night.
my reading list as well. So that wasn't a critique.
I just need to stimulate my brain, to be honest.
Bit of GPP for the
I
brain.
do some GPP
into
for the
physics.
But I agree. There are more useful things.
Before we wrap this up, because I know we're going close to an hour.
Did you Q&A?
Oh no! We did the Q&A. We're 3 podcasts ahead. We can't put a Q&A out. But anyway, what are you currently reading? What are you diving into that's away from the space of S&C and nutrition and anything work related?
Yeah, so Charles mentioned the topic of like putting our brain into AI and technology and basically transporting across the universe. So I'm reading a book on a similar topic called The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil. And he believes the singularity or the merger of humans and technology will occur before 2040.
Crazy.
Which is unbelievable.
Cyborgs.
Love
he
that.
has some really cool evidence that our extrapolations are always wrong. It's like, based on today's progress, the singularity won't occur for 200 more years. Yeah. But the thing is, the rate of progress actually speeds up.
I've heard that it's got a name, that there's a data point that technology doubles every 36 months or something like that. I don't know the exact thing, but there is that our current technology within 24 months or something will be completely non-existent. It's it's gone.
I watched the video. They showed us a video of that when I was at Swinburne, studying commerce, something about that, the rate of technology change and how, it was, quite profound.
Yeah.
What's that called?
The Singularity is Near.
And who's the author? I might just look into that guy.
Ray Kurzweil. He's considered probably one of the most prominent thinkers on this topic, and he also thinks that we'll basically incorporate ourselves with the universe. So we'll eventually, at the moment we have virtual reality, and then we're constructing nanotechnology that can actually manipulate light and sound waves and things like that. Eventually we'll be able to hook up the virtual reality with the nanotechnology to create our own basically reality. And then it's just like, as the technology and the information processing compounds, as humans we have really good abilities for pattern recognition. Like, you look at someone like, they're sad. You look at an animal and it's like, it's got 4 legs and fur. It's a cat, not a dog. Like, we're super good at that. But technology's awesome at speed of processing and 100% recall. So I'm excited for it. Like, people were all worried about the AI, but I was like, I hope it gets.
I'm all for it too. I'm all for it too. And there's the idea of it becoming weaponized or whatever, but that already happens. There's going to be weapons regardless. Everyone has nukes if they want them.
We're going to have better defenses
exactly,
because of it. So
I'm all for it. Have you seen Boston Dynamics, their new robot?
No.
Yeah.
It did a gymnastics routine, man.
I heard about that. Yeah.
John Tran showed us that one. That was impressive.
There was a new one. They just got another one out.
Another one.
The last 2-3 weeks. It literally did it. It does a backflip, lands perfectly, and then does a 360, and its knees cave and then absorb it, and it comes back, and it looks like a human. it's starting to look human.
That's sick.
Yeah,
That's
I'm all
cool.
for it. Boston Dynamics, MIT. Let's
Dolores.
go. That's it. Where can people find you? We won't do the Q&A because we don't have any. Oh, shoot me. You can shoot me.
We got the answers. They're in there. There's no questions to withdraw the answers.
Where can people find you? Is there anything else you want to talk about, discuss, or whatever?
That was a very vague question.
No, but like maybe you have something that you want to spruik on our podcast.
Is there a one?
We get about half 1,000 views here, so there'll be 500 people that potentially in about 14 years' time we might even get more. But
well, you never know, man. This could all be digitized and sent across the universe to another life form. So these words might be very special words.
This is the forefront.
Can you pull up that quote? Then again, I might. Nah.
You want the quote?
Nah, I was fucking around. People can find me. As I said, I work for JPS. Most of my work is directed towards there. We have a mentorship program that we're kind of mostly known for. If you want coaching by me, that can be achieved. I guess the areas of interest that I'm most fascinated in within my own work is probably the long format writing. Like I love blog writing, like really diving into a topic.
Some nuance.
Yeah, I do think that stuff is important. As you've said, it's not the kind of stuff that sells, but we need to remember that we all play our role within the industry. Like I'm happy to not have 50,000 followers. If they're smart followers that are interacting, enjoying the work that I'm doing, then I'm doing my job. So
awesome. What is your Instagram if people do want to follow you?
Yeah, so it's recently changed. So rip to hot and dangerous, but it's al.j.purcell.
So you followed me, mate. J.Smith.
Copied you.
Yeah,
the initials. You were the guy that came up with initials.
It's gonna cost you that one.
Anyway, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you in 14 years.
We'll see everyone else in the next episode.